They say the bond between mates is sacred, unbreakable, eternal. But what happens when ambition cuts deeper than love? Emma Vance learned the answer the hard way. To her soulmate, a title mattered more than the two beating hearts growing inside her. One moment, she walked in with the happiest news of her life. The next, she was standing in the cold, watching her future shatter in front of her. She thought being rejected was the end. She didn't know it was salvation. Because the moment she lost a cowardly beta, she caught the attention of the most feared name in the werewolf world. This is the story of how a rejected Omega became the mother of the Alpha King's three greatest treasures. The marble floors of the Thorne estate were cold, though not nearly as frigid as the look in Liam Thorne's eyes. Emma Vance stood in the center of the grand office, her hands trembling as they hovered protectively over her stomach. Outside, the autumn storm battered the windows of the Silver Creek pack house, a violent reflection of the turmoil churning in her gut. She'd walked into this room 5 minutes ago with the most joyous news of her life. Now she felt like she was attending her own funeral. "Repeat that," Liam said, his voice stripped of the warmth it had carried just last night. He didn't even glance up from the documents spread across his mahogany desk. "I said, I'm pregnant, Liam," Emma whispered, her heart slamming against her ribs. "We're going to be parents. I went to the pack healer, Dr. Evans. He confirmed it. There are two distinct heartbeats. Twins." She waited for the smile. She waited for him to come around the desk, lift her off the ground, spin her the way he'd sworn he would when they talked about their future. Instead, Liam Thorne, the future alpha of the Silver Creek pack, slowly set his pen down. And when he finally looked at her, it wasn't love in his eyes. It was irritation, like she was a stain on a brand new rug. "Get rid of them," he said. The air left the room. Emma blinked, certain she'd misheard. "What?" "You heard me, Emma." Liam stood, his tall frame casting a long shadow over her. "I cannot have baggage right now. My father is stepping down next month. The transition of power is delicate. I need to be focused on the pack's finances and our territory borders. Not changing diapers for half-blood runts." "Half-blood runts?" Emma's voice cracked. Tears pricked hot behind her eyes. "Liam, these are your children. They're part of this pack, part of you." Liam came around the desk, his expression hardening. "They are the children of an Omega. You have no lineage, Emma. Your parents were rogue converts. I overlooked your low status because you were convenient, pleasant to look at, submissive." His words landed like blows. "But I need a Luna who brings strength and alliances to Silver Creek. I cannot have the pack questioning my judgment by siring pups with a servant girl right before my coronation." The cruelty was so sharp it felt physical, like a silver blade twisting in her chest. "But we're mates," Emma breathed. "The moon goddess." "The moon goddess provides a suggestion, not a law." Liam roared, slamming his hand against a bookshelf. The crack echoed through the office like a gunshot. "And I'm choosing my future over a superstition. I am rejecting you, Emma." Emma staggered back, her legs shaking so badly she thought they might give out. "Liam, please. You don't mean that." The office door creaked open behind her. The scent that drifted in was expensive perfume. Roses layered over cold steel. "He means every word, sweetie." Emma turned. Serafina Cross leaned against the doorframe like she belonged there. Daughter of the Northern Alpha, famous for her beauty and her viciousness. She wore a silk dress that cost more than Emma would earn in 5 years working in the pack kitchens. Liam's face softened the moment he looked at Serafina. "You're early," he said. "I wanted to see the loose ends tied up," Serafina purred, gliding past Emma as if she were nothing. She went straight to Liam and placed a manicured hand on his chest. "My father agreed to the merger. Our packs will be united." Then her smile sharpened. But he was very clear. No scandals. No baggage. She tilted her head, green eyes drilling into Emma, into her stomach. And especially no bastard children running around claiming birthrights. Emma stared between them, the truth crashing down like a wave. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't impulsive. This was planned. You were seeing her," Emma whispered. "Serafina is my intended Luna," Liam said coldly. "She is my equal." "And what about our children?" Emma asked, her voice barely more than air, her hands clutching her stomach tighter. "You would kill your own blood for power." I told you, Liam sneered. Get rid of them. If you do, perhaps I'll let you stay in the pack as a cleaner. We always need help in the stables. Serafina's laugh was light and cruel, like glass chimes in winter wind. Oh, Liam, don't be so soft. She's a liability. If she keeps the brats, they'll grow up resentful. Her gaze cut like a blade. Better to cut the rot out now. Liam nodded, his wolf stirring beneath his skin, his eyes flashing amber for a split second. You're right. He looked at Emma, his face turning to stone. I, Liam Thorne, future alpha of Silver Creek, reject you, Emma, as my mate. I break the bond. A searing pain ripped through Emma's chest, like something inside her snapped clean in half. The invisible tether that had tied their souls together tore apart, violently and mercilessly. Emma gasped and collapsed to her knees, clutching at her heart as if she could hold herself together through sheer will. Felt like dying. You have 1 hour to pack your things and leave my territory, Liam commanded, already turning his back on her to lift Serafina's hand to his lips. If you are found on Silver Creek land, after that you will be declared a hostile rogue, and we hunt rogues for sport. Emma lifted her gaze to the man she had loved since childhood. There was no remorse in his eyes now, only naked ambition. She forced herself upright, gripping the back of a chair for support. The pain in her chest was blinding, but beneath it something new ignited. A fierce burning instinct. Protect. She was no longer just Emma the Omega. She was a mother. You will regret this, Emma said, her voice low but shockingly steady. Liam didn't even turn around. I doubt it. Get out. Emma turned and walked out of the office, leaving the warmth of the fire behind. She didn't go to her room to pack clothes. She didn't go to the kitchens to say goodbye to the staff who had raised her. She walked straight to the heavy oak front doors and shoved them open. The storm outside was savage, the rain cutting like ice against her skin. She had no car, no money, and nowhere to go. But as she stepped off the porch and into the mud, she made a vow to the 2 tiny lives growing inside her. I will not just survive, she thought, lightning flaring across her tear-streaked face. I will make him wish he had never been born. She began to run, toward the treeline, toward the neutral ground of the human city, until the darkness swallowed her whole. 3 months later, the city of Seattle showed no mercy to those without money, but compared to the woods it was paradise. Here, wolves were nothing more than urban legends, and a pregnant woman was just another anonymous face in the crowd. Emma had found work at a 24-hour diner called Patty's Place on the outskirts of the city. The job was brutal. Her ankles swelled, her back ached constantly, and the smell of grease clung to her hair no matter how often she washed it. But it paid in cash, and the owner, a gruff human everyone called Old S, didn't ask questions about why a 22-year-old girl had no ID or why she flinched whenever a door slammed. She rented a tiny drafty room above a porn shop. It was barely large enough for a bed, but it was hers. Order up, Emma. S shouted from the kitchen. Emma wiped her forehead with the back of her hand and grabbed the plates. She was 5 months pregnant now, and the twins were growing fast, faster than human babies should. She wrapped her stomach tightly with bandages beneath her uniform to hide the size, terrified someone might realize she wasn't entirely human. It was a Tuesday night, usually quiet, but the storm outside had driven people indoors. The diner was packed. In the corner booth farthest from the door sat a man who hadn't touched his coffee. Emma had noticed him the instant he walked in. It wasn't just his size, though he was massive, his broad shoulders straining against a dark rain-soaked trench coat. It was the presence he carried. Pressure. A magnetic pull that made the hair on her arms rise. He wore a baseball cap pulled low, shadowing his eyes, and a thick beard covered his jaw. He looked like a drifter, maybe a dock worker, but his hands resting on the table were clean. No more than clean. Powerful. Emma approached with the coffee pot. Top off, sir. The man didn't respond right away. He seemed to inhale deeply, his nostrils flaring slightly. For one terrifying second, Emma panicked. Can he smell me? Can he smell the wolf? She had been taking wolfsbane supplements, dangerous but necessary, to dull her scent. Please, the man said at last. His voice was a deep rumble, like thunder rolling across a mountain range. As she poured, a sudden wave of dizziness slammed into her. The exhaustion of double shifts finally caught up. The pot trembled in her hand, and hot coffee splashed onto the table, narrowly missing his fingers. "Oh God, I'm so sorry," Emma gasped, grabbing a napkin to dab at the spill. "I'm so clumsy today. I'll get you a fresh cup." She leaned forward to wipe the table, and for a split second her wrist brushed his hand. Sparks. It wasn't a figure of speech. A real violent jolt of electricity tore through her, so strong she dropped the coffee pot. It shattered on the floor, glass and scalding liquid exploding everywhere. The diner fell silent. I, Emma swayed, her vision tunneling as the room spun. Before she could collapse onto the broken glass, strong arms caught her. She was lifted effortlessly, as if she weighed nothing. The man from the booth had moved within human speed. He held her against his chest, and the scent hit her. Not grease or smoke, but rain, pine, and something ancient. Something like ozone and raw power. "She needs a doctor," the man said. He didn't raise his voice, yet it carried to every corner of the diner with undeniable authority. "I'm fine," Emma murmured, struggling weakly, panic clawing through her. If he was a wolf, she was in danger. Rogues were often killed on sight by pack enforcers, and she was a rogue now. "Please put me down." "You are not fine," the man replied calmly, looking down at her. Beneath the brim of his cap, she caught a glimpse of his eyes, sharp, piercing gray. "You are exhausted," he continued, "and your heart rate is erratic." Old S rushed out from the kitchen. "Emma, is she okay?" "She is overworked," the man said, his tone edged with accusation. "She needs rest." "I can't lose this job," Emma whispered frantically, clutching the man's wet coat. "Please. I need the money. The babies." The man went still. His gaze dropped to her stomach, hidden beneath the loose fabric of her uniform. "Babies." The word left him in a low murmur as his gaze swept over her torn uniform and the bandages beneath it, eyes narrowing not with malice, but with a sharp, almost unsettling curiosity. He looked back to the counter. "I'm taking her to the hospital," he said to S. "I'll pay for the damages." Without counting, he pulled a thick roll of cash from his pocket and dropped it onto the counter. It was easily $1,000. "Put me down." Emma fought, wolf instincts shrieking at her to run. But her human body was betraying her, heavy, weak, slipping. "Calm down, little one," the man said, his voice lowering into a soothing growl that vibrated through her chest. "I'm not going to hurt you." He carried her out of the diner and into the pouring rain. A sleek black SUV glided to the curb as if it had been waiting for a signal, the driver already stepping out in a dark suit. "Boss?" the man asked, surprised to see the stranger carrying a half-conscious woman. "University Hospital," the man ordered. "Now." He slid into the back seat with Emma still in his arms. As the vehicle surged forward, Emma struggled to keep her eyes open. Who are you?" she rasped. He removed his cap, revealing a ruggedly handsome face, hard plain storm gray eyes, and a scar slicing through his left eyebrow that only sharpened the dangerous pull of him. He studied her with an intensity that made something deep in her shiver. "My name is Julian," he said softly. No last name. He didn't need one. And Emma was far too exhausted to understand what that meant, far too tired to realize that the eyes pinned to her belonged to Julian Blackwood, the Alpha King. "Why?" Emma breathed, her hand drifting unconsciously to her stomach. "Why are you helping me?" Julian hesitated. His gaze dropped to her palm resting protectively over her belly, then lifted back to her eyes. He felt it again, the pull, the faint crackle of static in the air. A bond. Present but muted, smothered by something he couldn't yet name. "Because," Julian said at last, reaching out to brush a stray lock of hair from her forehead, his touch unexpectedly gentle. "I protect what's mine. And for some reason, the wolf inside me thinks you matter." Emma's lashes fluttered, and darkness finally swallowed her. Julian watched her sleep, jaw tightening as if he were biting back a snarl. He drew out his phone and dialed. "Secure the perimeter of the hospital," he ordered the moment the call connected. "And find out everything about a girl named Emma. I want to know who she is, where she came from, and who was stupid enough to let her go." His gaze dropped to her still form, then to her stomach. In the hush of the car he could hear 3 heartbeats. hers uneven, strained, and two tiny rapid flutters beneath it. Twins, he whispered, a strange softness sliding into his eyes. You're carrying 3 treasures, little one. And I intend to find out who threatened them. When Emma opened her eyes, she didn't see the water-stained ceiling of the room above the pawn shop. She saw a chandelier, crystal, modern, undeniably expensive, catching the morning light that spilled through floor-to-ceiling velvet curtains. Panic jolted her upright, her hand flying to her stomach. They're fine. The deep voice came from the corner like a shadow speaking. The heartbeats are strong. Stronger than yours, actually. Emma turned. Julian sat in a wingback chair, calm as if he belonged there, because he did. He'd traded the wet trench coat for a crisp charcoal suit, the tie forgotten, the effect somehow even more commanding. Less like a dock worker now, more like a king presiding over his court. In his hands was a file, her medical file. Where am I? Emma asked, voice rough. Only then did she notice the 4-line in her arm. Blackwood Private Medical Center, Julian replied, closing the folder. He rose and walked toward the bed, and the air seemed to tighten around his presence, shrinking the large suite into something intimate. You gave us quite a scare, Emma. The doctors found traces of wolfsbane in your system. Emma went still. The secret was out. A human doctor wouldn't recognize wolfsbane. They'd call it a toxin, nothing more. You know, Emma managed. I know you're a wolf, Julian said, his gray eyes locking onto hers without mercy. And I know you've been suppressing your scent so hard you've been poisoning yourself, and your unborn pups. Why? Emma stared down at the silk sheets, shame warming her cheeks. Because a rogue omega with no pack and no protection is a target, she whispered. I did what I had to do to keep them safe. Safe. Julian's voice dropped an octave, a low growl vibrating in his chest. He leaned over the bed, bracing one hand on the mattress near her hip. You almost killed them, Emma. Another week of that poison and their hearts would have stopped. Tears burned behind her eyes. I didn't have a choice. I have no money, no pack, and the father. The words caught in her throat, sharp with humiliation. The father is a fool, Julian finished for her, his tone like steel. I don't need his name to know he's blind. Emma could only nod. Julian turned away, pacing the room as if the walls were too close. The beast inside him was restless. When he'd carried her into the hospital, his wolf had been screaming one word, mate. Mate. But the bond was wrong. It existed, yes, but quiet, damaged, buried under the trauma of rejection. He couldn't claim her, not yet. She was frightened, weakened, and raw. If he told her who he truly was, the Alpha King, ruler of every pack, she might faint again just from the weight of it. He needed patience. He needed to be her sanctuary, not her ruler. You're not going back to that diner, Julian said at last, each syllable leaving no room for argument. And you're certainly not going back to that rat hole above the pawn shop. I have to work, Emma protested, weak even to her own ears. I have bills. Julian's eyes hardened, not at her, but at the world that had left her like this. Then listen carefully, he said. I have a proposition. He stopped mid-sentence, then spoke calmly. He was a businessman. He owned a large estate just outside the city. His staff was capable, but he needed a personal assistant, someone to manage household schedules, coordinate events, and oversee the library. The position was live-in. She would have her own private cottage on the grounds, with full medical care included. Emma stared at him in disbelief. It sounded impossibly generous. Too perfect. Why? She asked quietly. Why would you offer something like that to a stranger? Julian stopped pacing and looked at her. The steel in his gaze softened. Because I have 3 empty rooms in my house, Emma, and I despise wasted space. And besides, he added lightly, my wolf tolerates you. It was a lie. His wolf didn't merely tolerate her. It adored her. But he had to remain controlled. I don't know what to say, Emma whispered. Say yes, Julian replied. For the twins. He walked toward the door, pausing with his hand on the handle. Rest now. We leave in the morning. And Emma, throw away the wolfsbane. Under my roof no one will dare touch you. You have my word. The door closed behind him. Emma sank back into the pillows. For the first time in 3 months, The crushing weight on her chest eased. A strange warmth bloomed inside her, a faint spark igniting where the bond had once been severed. She had no idea she had just agreed to move into the Alpha King's primary fortress. She didn't know the estate was royal territory, land where no rogue had ever been allowed to step. The next morning, a limousine carried them out of the city. As concrete and steel gave way to towering pines and ancient mountains, Emma watched the world change outside the window. "Where are we going?" she asked. "North," Julian replied simply. He was working on a tablet, but his knee rested against hers. The contact sent gentle waves of heat through her body, calming, grounding. They stopped before iron gates rising 3 stories high. Guards in tactical gear patrolled the perimeter. Emma's eyes widened. "This isn't a house," she said softly. "It's a fortress." "I value my privacy," Julian replied with a shrug. As the car climbed the long driveway, Emma saw the main residence, a vast stone mansion that resembled a modern castle. But what truly captured her attention was the garden. It stretched endlessly, filled with flowers blooming against winter's frost. "The cottage is back there," Julian said, pointing to a charming stone house near a frozen lake. "It's fully stocked. You start tomorrow." Emma stepped out of the car and inhaled deeply. The air was pure pine and snow, and beneath it all his scent. The entire land was saturated with Julian's presence. It was overwhelming, dominant, and safe. She placed a hand on her belly. "We're okay," she whispered to the twins. "Mommy found us a safe place." From the balcony of the main house, Julian watched her enter the cottage. His beta, a stern man named Marcus, approached quietly behind him. "Sire," Marcus said, "is it wise to bring a rejected Omega onto royal grounds? The council will talk." Julian's eyes never left the cottage door. "Let them," he said coldly. "If anyone looks at her the wrong way, Marcus, remind them why I am king." "And the father?" Marcus asked. "We found him. Liam Thorne. Silver Creek Pack." Julian's hands tightened on the stone railing until the masonry cracked. "Thorne," he said slowly. "I know that pack. They're due for their annual tax audit, aren't they?" "Yes, sire." "Good." Julian smiled, a predator baring his teeth. "Schedule it, and tell the auditors to be thorough. I want every mistake that boy has ever made." 300 miles away, the Silver Creek Pack was already beginning to crumble. Liam Thorne sat in his office, the same office where he had rejected Emma, nursing a glass of whiskey. It was barely 11. "You're drinking again." Liam looked up to see Serafina standing in the doorway. She no longer glowed the way she had 3 months ago. She looked haggard. Her expensive dress was wrinkled, her movements frantic. "Get off my back," Liam growled. "The pack finances are a disaster. Your father promised a 2 million dowry. Where is it?" "It's tied up in assets," Serafina snapped as she stormed in. "And maybe things would improve if you actually led the pack instead of moping like a wounded puppy. The southern borders are leaking rogues, and the miners are threatening to strike." "I am leading," Liam roared, standing abruptly. "But nothing feels right. The pack link, it's weak." He was right. Since rejecting Emma, his alpha power had been unstable. An alpha drew strength from his mate. By rejecting his true mate for a chosen one, he had severed his spiritual battery. He was exhausted, irritable, and far weaker than he should have been. "You just need focus," Serafina said, her voice turning syrupy as she moved behind him and massaged his shoulders. "Forget the past. We are the future." A knock interrupted them. A nervous scout entered. "Alpha, Beta. What is it?" Liam barked. "The private investigator you hired, Alpha. He sent a report." Serafina's hands froze. "You hired an investigator?" she asked sharply. "For what?" Liam ignored her, snatching the envelope from the scout. "Leave us." He tore it open. His hands trembled. He hadn't told Serafina, but he had been searching for Emma. Not because he wanted her back or so he told himself, but because he needed to know she was gone. He needed closure. He pulled out a grainy photograph, taken from a distance with a telephoto lens. It showed Emma walking through a snow-covered garden, wrapped in a thick, expensive wool coat. She looked healthy, rosy-cheeked. Her hair shone, and her stomach round, high, unmistakable, told the rest of the story. Emma was heavily pregnant, but it was the background that sent ice through Liam's veins. Behind her rose a stone structure he recognized from glossy magazines. And beside her, helping her down a step, stood a man. His face turned away, but his posture radiated authority. Power. The kind that didn't ask for permission. She kept it, Liam whispered, locked on her belly. A sharp, irrational stab of jealousy twisted in his chest. Those were his pups. And she was thriving. Living in luxury. Serafina ripped the photo from his hand. Her eyes widened. Is that Blackwood territory? It looks like it, Liam said, confusion grinding against anger. How did an Omega get into Blackwood? That's the Alpha King's private land. She must be a servant, Serafina scoffed, but her voice wavered. Aura. She looks too happy to be a servant, Liam muttered. He jabbed a finger at the man in the picture. And who is that? Is she with someone? Does it matter? Serafina crushed the photo in her fist. She is a stain on our reputation, Liam. If the council finds out you rejected your pregnant mate and she's running around the king's territory, we'll be a laughingstock. Or worse, she could claim child support and drain our treasury. Liam pushed to his feet, the alcohol in his blood feeding the fire in his head. She has no right. I rejected her. She is nothing. Then prove it, Serafina hissed. Go get her. Drag her back here. Make her admit the children aren't yours. Or deal with the problem permanently. Liam stared at the crumpled photo. For a fleeting second, Emma's soft eyes flashed in his memory. Her laugh, the way she used to look at him like he was her whole world. Then his gaze fell to the piles of unpaid bills on his desk, and the ambitious woman standing beside him like a promise of survival. He had chosen. And he couldn't afford to regret it now. I can't go to Blackwood, Liam said tightly. The king would kill me for trespassing. The king is never there, Serafina lied with effortless ease. He spends all his time in the capital. That estate is just a vacation home. We can send a retrieval team or... Her smile sharpened, wicked and bright. We have an invitation to the winter solstice ball in the neutral zone next week. Rumor says high-ranking Blackwood staff will be there. Liam's jaw worked as her plan slid into place. So we go, Serafina continued, voice silky. We find out who her new protector is, and we leverage him. We threaten to expose her as a rogue unless he hands her over. Liam nodded slowly, rage settling into something darker. Possessive. Cold. She belongs to Silver Creek, he said, even as disgust curled his lip. Even if I don't want her, she doesn't get to be happy with someone else. Not with my children. Exactly. Serafina kissed his cheek. Get the car ready, Liam. We're going hunting. Back at the Blackwood estate, Emma had no idea a storm was gathering in the south. She was in the library shelving books, simple work, quiet work. Work she didn't mind, especially with the comforting scent of old paper surrounding her. Julian had been kind, surprisingly kind. He joined her for dinner every night. He never pushed, never pried, but he always made sure she ate the best cuts of meat, as if her health, her strength, mattered to him more than anything else. Emma reached for a book on a high shelf when a sharp pain speared through her lower back. She sucked in a breath and the book slipped from her fingers. Careful. Julian was there instantly, catching the book with one hand, steadying her with the other. His touch sent that now familiar electric jolt through her body, stronger than it had ever been before. I'm okay, Emma breathed, looking up at him. He was so close she could see flecks of gold in his gray eyes. Just a little back pain. The twins are heavy. Julian didn't release her arm. Emma, the winter solstice ball is next week. Emma gave a nervous laugh. I don't think I'm dressed for a ball, Julian. Look at me. I'm huge. I want you to come with me, Julian said, his voice suddenly serious. Emma blinked. What? Why? I'm just the assistant. No, Julian's hand moved, bold and steady, settling against her stomach. The twins kicked against his palm, answering his aura like they recognized it, like they welcomed it. You are more than that, Julian said quietly. And it's time the world knew you are under my protection. There are rumors. I want them silenced. But people will stare. Emma whispered, fear and thrill tangling in her chest under the warmth of his touch. Let them stare. Julian smirked, and for an instant a dangerous, kingly look crossed his face. Let them see what a real queen looks like. He leaned in, his lips brushing near her ear. Besides, I have a feeling some old acquaintances of yours might be there. And I think it's time for a reunion. Emma shivered. She didn't know if it was fear or excitement. But looking at Julian, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Beside him she was untouchable. Okay, she whispered. I'll go. Julian smiled. It was the smile of a wolf who had just trapped his prey. Good, he said softly. I'll have the dressmaker sent up. The Grand Crystal Hall in the neutral zone was a spectacle of wealth and dominance. Every major alpha from the West Coast had gathered for the winter solstice ball. Chandeliers the size of small cars glittered overhead, dripping light like liquid gold. The air was thick with champagne, expensive perfume, and the sharp competitive edge of layered pheromones. In a corner, Liam Thorne adjusted his tie, his face flushed with irritation. I don't see her, Serafina. Maybe the photo was old. Maybe she's cleaning toilets in the back. Serafina sipped her wine, eyes sweeping the crowd like a hawk. She's here. I can feel it. And when we find the idiot who took her in, we're going to ruin him. Then the music stopped. The chatter died mid-breath. A hush rolled across the room, starting at the grand staircase and spreading outward like a wave. What's going on? Liam muttered, craning his neck. At the top of the stairs stood a couple that made everyone else in the hall look dim by comparison. The man was tall and the man at the top of the stairs was imposing, dressed in a tuxedo that fit him like a second skin. Power radiated from him so intensely that lower-ranked wolves instinctively dropped their gazes as he descended. But it wasn't him who stole the air from Liam's lungs. It was the woman on his arm. Emma. She wore a gown of midnight blue velvet that flowed over her curves, clinging to her pregnant belly in a way that made her look like a fertility goddess instead of a discarded omega. Diamonds glittered from her ears, her hair swept into an elegant, intricate braid. She didn't look broken. She looked untouchable. Regal. Impossible, Liam whispered, the glass slipping from his fingers and shattering against the marble floor. Who is she with? Serafina hissed, her nails digging into Liam's arm. That man. I don't recognize him. Julian guided Emma down the staircase, feeling the tremor in her hand where it rested on his arm. Breathe, he murmured quietly, his voice a deep, steady rumble. You are the most powerful woman in this room because you are with me. Keep your head high. Emma lifted her chin. She saw the faces staring at her. Wolves who had once sneered, whispered, and turned their backs now stared in stunned awe. And then she saw him. Liam shoved his way through the crowd, dragging Serafina behind him. He stormed to the foot of the stairs, blocking their path. Emma! Liam barked, his voice cracking through the sudden silence. What do you think you're doing? A gasp rippled through the hall. A public challenge. Emma's grip tightened on Julian's arm, but she didn't retreat. Hello, Liam. Don't, he sneered, amber eyes flaring. You're strutting around like you belong here. You're a rejected omega. His gaze dropped to her stomach. And you're still carrying those bastards. I told you to get rid of them. A collective inhale swept through the room. Speaking of unborn pups, that way was forbidden, even for an alpha. Julian stepped forward, placing himself fully between Emma and Liam. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Careful, boy, he said calmly. You're speaking to my partner. Liam laughed harshly, looking Julian up and down. Partner? So you're the one who picked up my trash. Who are you? Some rogue who got lucky. He puffed out his chest. Do you know who I am? I'm Alpha Liam Thorne of Silver Creek. Serafina stepped forward beside him, lips curling. And I am his Luna. We demand you hand her over. She's a fugitive from our pack. Julian glanced at Serafina, then back to Liam, his expression profoundly bored. A fugitive? He repeated. She walked out your front door after you broke the bond. She is free. And she is mine. Liam's controls snapped. Unable to bear the sight of another man protecting his pregnant mate, he lunged forward, reaching for Emma's arm. You're coming with me, he snarled. Tonight. We're going to fix this mistake. He never touched her. 1 second Liam was reaching out. The next he was on his knees. Julian hadn't struck him. He had simply released his aura. A crushing wave of dominance slammed into the room. Ancient, overwhelming and impossibly heavy. Every wolf felt it. Every instinct screamed submission. Necks bared. Knees buckled. Liam choked, pinned to the floor by invisible force, terror flooding his eyes. "You asked who I am," Julian said, his voice booming through the crystal chandeliers without a microphone. He stepped closer, looking down at Liam like a god passing judgment. "I am the one who signs your treaties. I am the one who owns the land your pack hunts on. I am the wolf of the north, the keeper of the bloodline." Julian's eyes shifted. They didn't flash amber. They turned liquid silver. "The mark of the king. I am Julian Blackwood," he declared. "Alpha King." Silence swallowed the room. Then chaos. Every wolf dropped to one knee. Alphas. Lunas. Even the servers froze in reverence. Seraphina went deathly pale, her knees giving out as she collapsed beside Liam. "Why, Your Majesty, we didn't know." "You didn't know?" Julian echoed softly, deadly calm beneath the words. "You insulted my guest. You threatened a pregnant woman. And you dared lay hands on what is under my protection." He looked down at Liam, who was trembling uncontrollably. "You called her trash, Liam Thorne." His voice hardened. "But one man's trash is a king's treasure." Julian turned to the crowd. "Let it be known. Emma Vance is under the personal protection of the crown. Any insult toward her is a declaration of war against me." Then he turned back to her, his gaze softening completely. He held out his hand. "Come, my dear. The air in here has grown stale." Emma took his hand, tears streaming freely, tears of shock, of validation, of justice. As they walked away, leaving Liam kneeling in humiliation, she understood something profound. She hadn't just found a protector. She had found the one man who would burn the world down for her. The drive back to the estate passed in silence, but it was a peaceful silence. Emma rested her head against Julian's shoulder. "You're the king," she whispered. "You lied to me." "I omitted the truth," Julian corrected gently, kissing the top of her head. "If I'd told you who I was at the diner, would you have come with me, or would you have run?" "I would have run," she admitted softly. "Exactly," he said. "And I couldn't allow that. Not after I saw you." Suddenly, a sharp pain tore through Emma's abdomen. This wasn't the dull ache from the library. This was different, intense, sudden, crushing. Like a vice tightening around her entire midsection. Pain exploded through her body. "Ah!" Emma cried out, clutching her stomach as agony ripped through her without warning. Julian sat bolt upright instantly. "Driver, go faster. Now." "Something's wrong," Emma gasped, her face twisting in terror and pain. "It's too early. I'm only 7 months. It's the stress." Julian snarled under his breath, his hands hovering helplessly over her belly, afraid even a touch might hurt her more. "Liam, I should have killed him where he stood." The car tore through the iron gates of the estate. The medical team was already waiting, alerted moments earlier by the driver. Emma was rushed straight into the private delivery suite as Julian followed, his jaw clenched tight. The pain was blinding, like her body was being torn apart from the inside. "The heartbeats are erratic." "Dear," Evans shouted, eyes locked on the monitors. "Stress caused a placental abruption. We have to deliver immediately." Julian stood at Emma's head, gripping her hand so tightly his knuckles went white. His face had drained of color, his iron composure fracturing. For the first time in his reign, the Alpha King looked truly afraid. "Save them," Julian ordered, his voice shaking. "Save her. If she dies, you all die." "Julian," Emma whispered, squeezing his hand with what strength she had left. "If I don't make it, promise me." "No," Julian cut in sharply, lowering his forehead to hers. "You are not going anywhere. You're strong. You're a survivor. Fight, Emma." The next hour dissolved into chaos and pain. Time lost all meaning. But through every scream and contraction, Emma focused on the silver eyes of the man holding her hand. He was her anchor. "Push, Emma. Push." A sharp, furious cry pierced the room. A tiny, angry wail. "It's a boy," the nurse announced. Relief crashed over Emma in sobs, but the pain didn't stop. 2 minutes later, another cry rang out. Another boy. Identical twins. Emma collapsed back against the pillows, completely spent. Is it over? Are they okay? The doctor was cleaning the second baby when he suddenly froze. His eyes flicked from the ultrasound monitor back to Emma's stomach. Your Majesty, he stammered. What? Julian barked. What is it? There is a third heartbeat. Emma's eyes flew open. What? It was hidden, the doctor said in awe. The 2 boys were positioned in a way that masked it. It's an extremely rare phenomenon called a shadowed pup. A third. Emma gasped as another massive contraction tore through her. One more time, Emma, Julian urged, his eyes shining with disbelief and pride. One more treasure. With a final guttural scream, Emma pushed. The room fell silent. Then a softer, higher-pitched cry joined the chorus. It's a girl, the nurse whispered. Emma lay there, panting, her body completely spent, but her heart fuller than she had ever known. The nurses cleaned the babies and gently placed them in her arms. 2 strong, loud boys, and between them a tiny, delicate girl. Julian stared down at the sight before him. The Alpha King, the most feared man in the world, had tears streaming freely down his face. He reached out and brushed a finger along his daughter's cheek. 3, he whispered. You were carrying 3. I didn't know, Emma murmured softly, kissing each tiny head. Liam Thorne threw away a dynasty, Julian said grimly. Triplets are the moon goddess's highest blessing. They are destined to lead leaders. He bent and kissed Emma's sweat-slicked forehead. Rest now, my queen. I'll handle the rest. By morning the news spread like wildfire. The Alpha King had claimed a mate. And not just any mate, but a woman who had given birth to triplets. At the Silver Creek pack house, Liam Thorne sat alone in darkness. His office had been stripped bare. The audit was complete. He was bankrupt. The fines levied for negligence and emotional damages exceeded the pack's entire worth. Serafina had left at dawn, fleeing back to her father and claiming Liam had deceived her. The phone on his desk rang, the only thing left in the room. Liam answered with shaking hands. Hello, Alpha Thorne, a lawyer's voice said coldly. I represent His Majesty, King Julian. You are hereby stripped of your Alpha title, effective immediately. The Silver Creek pack is dissolved and absorbed into royal territory. You can't, Liam whispered, broken. It is done. And one more thing, His Majesty thought you should know. Emma Vance gave birth last night. Liam's heart stuttered. The twins, are they? Triplets, Mr. Thorne. The phone slipped from his fingers. Triplets. In werewolf law, they were legend, said to carry the power of the ancients. He hadn't just rejected children. He had rejected a miracle. Liam collapsed to his knees, a scream of pure regret ripping from his throat, but there was no one left to hear it. Back at the royal estate, Julian stood on the balcony, holding his tiny daughter while Emma slept inside with the boys. He gazed out over his kingdom. They will be strong, he promised the sleeping infant. And they will call me father. He smiled darkly. And the man who made you will be nothing more than a cautionary tale. Turning back inside, he watched Emma sleep peacefully. 3 treasures, he murmured. And the greatest one is her. The sun hung high over the Blackwood royal estate, bathing the manicured lawns in golden light. It was hard to believe 5 years had passed since the stormy night Emma had walked away from Silver Creek with nothing but the clothes on her back. Today the estate buzzed with celebration. It was the 5th birthday of the royal triplets. And the entire werewolf kingdom was watching. Orion, Atlas, put your sister down. Emma stood on the patio, laughing as she watched 2 dark-haired boys try to haul a squealing little girl toward the fountain. At just 5 years old, the twins were already showing the raw strength of alpha blood. Big for their age, noisy, fearless, and overflowing with trouble. But Mom, Orion shouted, grinning wide through the gap of a missing front tooth. Lyra said she's a water princess. We're just helping her get to her castle. I did not, Lyra protested, though she was giggling the whole time. Unlike her brothers who carried Julian's rugged look, Lyra was Emma's mirror. Soft features, sharp intelligence in her expression, and Julian's steel-gray eyes. A large, powerful hand settled at Emma's waist. She didn't flinch. She leaned into it. Let them toss her in, Julian murmured against her ear. It's hot. The pups need to cool off. Emma swatted his chest, playful but firm. You are the king. You're supposed to be the disciplinarian. I am the king, Julian agreed, kissing her neck. Which means I can officially decree, it's splash time. As if on cue, Julian released a teasing growl. The three children froze for half a second, then screamed with pure delight as their father charged across the grass and swept all three of them up in his massive arms. Their laughter rolled through the estate and echoed off the mountains. So bright and clean it felt like it erased the last remaining scars on Emma's heart. Later that evening, after the cake was gone and the guests had all left, Emma found herself alone on the balcony, staring up at the stars. She felt someone behind her. Not Julian this time. Your Majesty, a quiet voice said. Emma turned and found Marcus, the royal beta, standing there with hesitation in his posture. What is it, Marcus? He swallowed. We caught a trespasser at the southern gate near the servants' quarters. He was begging for food. He claims he knows you. Emma's heart lurched. She didn't need to ask who. Marcus held out the security tablet. On the grainy screen, a man was crouched against the fence, hunched as if trying to make himself smaller. He was thin. His clothes were torn and muddy. His hair, once perfectly styled, was tangled, gray creeping in too early. And his eyes were hollow, stripped of the confident amber fire an alpha should have carried. It was Liam. He says he just wants to see them, Marcus said, disgust sharpening every word. Just once. He says he has a right. Emma stared at the screen and the past hit her like ice. The office. The cold voice. The rejection. Get rid of them. He had said it like they were trash. He has no rights, Emma said, her voice steady, cold as winter wind. He rejected them before they took their first breath. He rejected me. Marcus nodded. Shall I have the guards remove him? No, Emma took the tablet and typed a command into the gate security. Give him a hot meal. Give him a coat. And then tell him that if he ever comes within 100 miles of my children again, the king won't be the one to kill him. Her fingers didn't shake as she finished the order. I will. She handed the tablet back. Let him live with the knowledge that he is alive only because of my mercy, she said quietly. That's a worse punishment than death. Marcus bowed. As you wish, my queen. Emma turned toward the balcony door. Julian stood there, holding 2 glasses of wine. He'd heard everything. He didn't mention Liam. Not once. He simply handed Emma a glass, and pulled her into his arms as if the only thing that mattered was keeping her steady. They asked about their dad today, Julian said softly. Emma went rigid. They did. Orion asked if I was going to be their dad forever. Emma lifted her eyes. And what did you say? Julian smiled and glanced toward the bedroom, where the 3 children were sprawled together in one massive bed, fast asleep in a tangled pile of warmth and trust. I told him blood makes you related, Julian said, voice low and sure. But love makes you family. I told him I chose them. I chose you. And that bond is stronger than any wolf instinct. Emma rested her head against his chest, listening to the powerful, steady beat of his heart, the heart that had saved her. You are their father, Julian, she whispered. In every way that matters. They are your treasures. Julian kissed her. Deep, soul-searing, the kind of kiss that didn't just promise tomorrow. It promised forever. No, he corrected gently, pulling back to look into her eyes. We have 4 treasures in this house, Emma. His thumb brushed her cheek. And you were the first one I found. Below them, in the darkness beyond the gates, a lone wolf howled. Regret and loneliness stitched into a sound that faded into the night. But inside the castle there was only warmth. Only light. Only the steady breathing of a family made whole. And that is the story of Emma and the Alpha King. In the end, Liam learned the hardest lesson of all. True power isn't about titles or territory. It's about recognizing the value of the people who love you. Before it's too late. Emma found her strength not in a man, but in herself, and she was rewarded with a love that finally matched her own. So tell me, what did you think of Emma's decision at the end? Do you think she should have let Liam see the triplets? Or did he deserve to be turned away? I want to hear your opinion in the comments below. Let's get a debate going. If you enjoyed this story of justice and romance, Please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. We have a dramatic new tale coming out next week that you won't want to miss. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.